Hello, this is Professor Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at FIT. Doing a tutorial today for doing a detailed ring maquette that you could then take into a finished model, or in the case of today's tutorial, use to create a 3/4 view for a template for doing a two-dimensional drawing using either traditional or digital media. To start, I need to bring in the top view that I will be using to base this maquette on. I'm going to use a picture frame command to do that. So just picture frame typed into the command line, and select the image you want, drag using ortho to come in square and straight. I need to go to the object properties and select the material tab and move transparency up to about 90% so I can see through the image, and put it on a layer I'm not going to be wanting to use a lot, so put it on dark brown. Next thing I need to do is to make an actual size, so I'm going to draw a ring bore. Circle center radius starting around 0 with a diameter of 17 millimeters. Going to offset that curve 2 millimeters. Move that outer profile up 0.3 millimeters. And I'm going to use this overall width to tell me the final overall width of this top view. So I'm going to project, make sure project is on for my object snaps. Select quad and just use a straight line. Both sides option. Shift key for ortho. Mirror it over. And that'll give me the brackets I need for the overall width. Going to want a horizontal straight line, both sides again, just to demarcate the horizontal center of that drawing. Turning off the front view for a moment. Now I'm going to bring this into size and proportion. To do that, I'm going to draw a rectangle around it. I just want to drag the rectangle so that two sides end up where I want them. So for in this case, along that bottom edge right here and along the right edge. The corner that shares those two edges is the corner I'm going to want to use for my non-uniform scale origin. And that's the point you don't want to change. I don't want that to move, so drag it over till it touches there. Drag it down till it touches at the top. Z I don't want to change, so just hit enter. I'm going to select both the rectangle and the picture frame, move them together using center snap to 0. Remember, any closed rectangle or circle has a center that you can snap to. You can see that it's undersized. This box should be this full width, so I'm going to use 3D scale. Going to go from 0 using intersect snap where my reference box is out to my actual dimension. I won't be needing that rectangle anymore, and I'm going to lock the layer that has my picture frame so I don't inadvertently move it. Need to bring in an oval stone. And for this purposes I only need the stone, I don't need the curves or the reference point of the culet. So in order to scale this, I'm going to go into wireframe in the top view, and I'm going to 3D scale the stone starting at 0 using mid snap in this case, so I can grab this facet line, and I'm going to the center of that facet, and I'm going to scale it down till it matches the width. Because remember, the depth of your stone is based on its narrow diameter. Now I can see here that this is a little small, so I'm going to come back in and scale it back up just a little bit. Okay. The implication being that my picture frame needs to be moved up just a little bit. Easily done. Lock that down again. And now I'm going to non-uniform the scale in its lengthwise, because this dimension can change without affecting the depth. Like so. No change here, so one enter, one enter. Done. So I have the stone, a front view, and my image. To move the stone into location. Now, at this point, I have to think about how I'm going to make a maquette. The maquette for this is a bypass ring. It's a sculptural bypass ring. So I'm going to want to have this hook form coming around on both sides. So if I model one side, I have the other. The stone is set, this is a carved away basin that the stone is sitting down inside of. So I want the stone a little higher than this. So I got to think about what that front view indicates. And I think it indicates a ramp sloping upward. Here. In fact, I'm going to take a curve. I'm going to draw a line tangent from the curve. Right here. And I'll just pull it off of here. I just want a slight slope. So, you can use quad snap. Use it to trim this in half. Use this curve, fillet set to 0. So join those together. So, and then I'll rebuild this with a reasonable number of points, say 20. Turn on my curvature graph. And make sure it looks reasonably smooth. That's fine. For a maquette, that's plenty nice. Okay? The end of this is going to be coming off of this edge. So, I need a curve that references that edge. Offset, through point. And I'm just going to grab that width right here. And in the front C-plane, carry that straight up to where it intersects this swept line. I'm going to be using a flow along curve, so I am creating part of a flow kit here. Okay, that gives me the ring from the bottom around to the top. Okay, so to complete this flow kit, I'm going to also need this same line represented on the flat. So I'll analyze its length, 39.332. I'm going to no longer need this curve. I'm going to remove that. And it's important, the placement of this. I want the end of this to come into the same location as the end of this curve. They need to be lined up. So to line them up, I'm going to use a project for my object snapped again. I'm going to grab from the end of this curve, and I'm going to reach up and grab the end of that curve. And you'll see how that projects that pick point right down to the C-plane. Take one more check on the lengths. 39. 39. Okay. So that's good. I really don't need these brackets anymore. And I'll go ahead and put these on the regular front view layer. What I need to do now is I need to establish this width right here. And to establish this thickness, it's going to be very helpful for me if I can just do an extrusion to do that. I cut this away to create this line. I need to restore it, that profile. It's easy to do. Just offset 2 millimeters again. And move it up 0.3 again. Using these standard measurements again and again and again and again on your work does help with this sort of problem solving. I'm going to just extrude this both sides. Solid option. And I just want something that's about the thickness of my sketch. Remembering that my sketch is a bypass ring, so that looks pretty good. Okay. Might be a little bit wide. So a non-uniform scale. No change in that direction. Narrow it up a little here. No change in Z. Okay? Now what's important to note is that when you have a bypass ring, it has to line up at the underside of the finger. Then it can begin to swing to one side or the other. I like to have a fairly narrow area down here at the bottom that stays true. This might actually taper. I don't think it needs to taper from the top to the bottom, so I'm not going to bother doing that. I want to slice it here. I'm going to create a cut line. Mirror that over with history. And then I'm going to... Actually, I think that looks fine. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to... I have a couple of choices here. I could do a cutting plane, but actually it's just as easy to grab those two curves and do an extrusion. Straight out. And then delete the lines. Check the direction here. Actually, I want to keep the center here, so this should work fine. Solid, difference. Okay, join these together. And try it again. There we go. So this will be the bottom of my shank. If you're doing a bypass ring, you always need to have a little key here, a little chunk at the bottom that goes right under the finger. Bring back my drawing. I'm going to go ahead and hide this, Control H. Okay. I want to take this surface right here. I'm going to right click on Explode. That'll give me the Extract Surface command. I want Copy equals yes. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to do a little reverse engineering. I'm going to flow it along this curve to the flat curve. Flow along curve, this end to that end. And that puts that in position right here for me. I'm going to draw straight lines coming off of that at each end. I could have just mirrored as well. And then I can delete this. It just guarantees me that I have that width in the right position when I draw the rest of my ring. So now I'm going to come back into the top view, and I'm actually going to draw this section. It's for a maquette class, so I'm not going to be very careful about it. Or I should say I'm not going to torture myself over it. I try and always be reasonably careful in my work. There's no point in doing things over again because I'm in a hurry. And I have another curve coming in, something like this. It's a little bit vague how the designer wanted this to be. Okay. And it's a very unusual thing happening right here. I'm not sure I understand what is supposed to be taking place there. Anything I do here feels strange. If you're trying to figure something out, class, it's often good just to do a polyline. I draw that, and it gives me some idea of what it is that I'm trying to draw, and then come back and draw it with a interpolate curve. Holding down the Alt key to deactivate object snaps. And then I can delete the polycurve. Something like this. It's not very attractive. I'm going to rebuild it a little bit. I don't want to belabor it. It's really easy to get caught up in this. If your maquette takes you more than an hour to make, you've spent much too much time on it. Professionally speaking, as students, okay, yours are going to take a little longer. But when you get your skill set down and you're in the workplace, if you spend more than an hour doing a maquette and your boss finds out, it won't go over well for you. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to just do a blend curve to catch the end of that. I'll do a adjustable. That's fine. Okay, the other piece of information that I have here is this cutaway. I'm just going to indicate it in my maquette. I'm not going to really spend a lot of time trying to understand the form of it at this point. Just going to accept that I have something like that going on. Okay. Now, the challenge I've got is to make all of this work in such a way that it ties into these lines back here. Once again, I'll just use a straight line to give myself an idea of about how this is going to work. Something roughly in here is going to split off, so I'll do a split command, point option, and I'll crop it off about here. Do a curve blend again, adjustable blend curve. Grab the end of this curve and the end of that one and play with these sliders until I get something that feels like it's smooth and attractive. I've disobeyed this drawing now, but I'm okay with that because I realize I'm creating a three-dimensional form now. Delete that. Going to do the same thing here. Just kind of give myself a sense of what I'm doing. I need to split this out about here. Point option on the split. Blend curve. And the same thing. Looking at the shape that I'm making. Now, the reason I'm coming off a straight line is so that I know when I make this maquette and it meets that little key at the bottom, that little solid surface I've already made, that it's going to work out nicely. This will also need to come down in. I need to decide how far I want that to go. I'm not going to want it to go all the way back to here. I'm going to split it somewhere in here. And then I'm going to do a extend by arc to point. And I'll just let it come off like that. I need to make something solid that I can cut with here. So I'm just going to create a closed shape. I don't care what tool I need to do it. I'll do an arc start end direction. That's fine. Join those together. Throw these away. Put a straight line across the back. Join these together. Should be a closed curve and a closed curve. Okay. Alright, I'm going to extrude this as a solid cookie or plate coming straight down. I'm going down away from my flow curve. Only want one direction, solid, yes. I want it plenty thick. Okay. So flow along curve. Okay. I'll grab this end and this end. Okay. Not bad. I want to create the cutter. That's going to give me that little inset in a good contrasting color. I will extrude this both sides. I don't need it to be very thick. Just enough to give me the lines I need in my drawing. I'm going to flow this along curve also. Going to make sure I use history this time. Flat flow curve, dimensional flow curve. Going to come into my top view. I just want to check and see how these are interacting along with my design. It looks pretty accurate. I just wanted to check that before I accepted what I've done. Okay, I'm going to do a solid difference here. Okay. So I have that. I would like to boolean this out, but here's the thing. Look at what happens when I do that. See how this comes around and creates a thick block of material on the other side? That doesn't feel right to me. According to my design, I feel like this whole thing flows up in a single piece. And that means that what I'm going to really want to do is I'm going to want to create something that comes off of here in the same way. So front C-plane, so I can draw in that direction. Tangent from curve. I'm just going to pull something off of here that looks like it's okay. Just like we did with the outer board. I'm actually going to copy this to clipboard before I destroy it. Quad, trim, and then fillet, join, not delete, join, and then paste this back in and hide it. I'm going to use this to take off the bottom of this piece. Check my direction. I want it to keep this top piece, so that's perfect. And I have what I need. I'm going to rotate that around with a copy option. 180 degrees. Turn off some of these curve layers. Bring back in my little key that I made. Not sure where that went to. Here we go. I should be able to come in here now and extract surfaces and just join this all together in one piece. Before I do that, I'm going to try and Boolean union these two. Nice. And now I'll extract surface. Right click on explode. I don't want to copy this time. Copy equals no. Drag a window, enter. And that should have selected all of those intersecting surfaces right there. Delete. If I go wireframe now, you can see there's nothing in between these to stop me from joining them. Okay, it's an open poly surface. It is not what I hoped for. You know, I always like a closed poly surface. But for a maquette, I'm fine with that. Okay, going to bring my stone into play now. Actually, that elevation where I put the stone isn't bad. I do want it to have prong settings. Now, something I want to point out. When you're looking at this, you're going to go, wow, this doesn't come back down on the finger. Is this going to rock back and forth crazy? It isn't, because if you look at the front view, you have a complete finger bore. It lifts a little bit here, but there's enough contact that that ring will stay stable on the finger. Okay. Put my prongs. Do a 1mm sphere. Don't want project anymore on my object snaps. And those would be right here. It's a little big. I'll go 9/10. That's fine. Boolean union. Put a copy of this on my hidden layer before I do a union, just so I have it there if I want it. Okay, and now I can decide if I want this to nestle down lower in, or if I like where it is. I think that's actually pretty good. I think that's all right. So my drawing is now complete. I'm going to put a scale sphere in the center. My part is complete. My maquette is complete, I should say. Sphere, center radius, diameter of 10 millimeters. Rotate this until I get a view that I think captures what I'm trying to draw here in the 3/4. That's pretty good. Select all. Make 2D drawing. Current view. Group. Turn off the dark blue layer. Control A. Deselect this group by control clicking. Make 2D drawing. Current view. Okay. Turn off my maquette. Go into the top C-plane or top viewport. Going to draw a 10mm circle. Circle center radius 0, 10. And then I'm going to use orient, 2 points, scale yes, copy no, 3D scale is fine. Center snap and quad, because that circle will have a center I can grab. And a quad I can grab. Center I can grab. Quad I can grab. Delete the circle. And unfortunately, it would appear that I did not group my second drawing together. I'm alright because I did group this one, so it won't be hard to group it now. And same thing, orient 2 points using any two intersections that I can find on both drawings. This facet line will work fine. Scale equals 3D, copy equals no. End to end, end to end. There. Delete the version of that drawing that has a circle in it. And that's my maquette. I do want to get rid of these seam lines, so I'm going to ungroup this drawing, Control-Shift-G. And where I have seams that I don't want in my finished drawing, I'll go ahead and delete them out. The rest of that looks pretty good to me. So that's finished. I'm going to group it again. I'm going to put it on a different layer for just a minute. I'm going to bring back my maquette and take this one step further. Here in my top view, it's good to have an orthographic view when you do this, although it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do a make 2D drawing. I want 4 views USA. You can see Rhino was drawing the views for me now. I don't want this perspective drawing. It's not the correct view, and it won't be actual size. Always remember, when Rhino draws from the perspective viewport, it's never actual size. You have to go through that extra step to ensure that it is. I'm going to group these together. I'm going to move using center snap to 0, 0. Ungroup, Control-Shift-G, just so I can get rid of seams that I don't want. There. Check for strange seams here. Turn off grid, F7, to check for any strange seams here. And that's fine. Bring back my 3/4 view. Put it in position. Put them on the same layer. Put an outline around it. For export purposes. And I will export this into Adobe Illustrator. Usual exports, preserve scale, 1 millimeter equals 1 millimeter RGB. And out it goes. And that is it. We now have not only a 3/4 view maquette to draw on top of, but we can use these to actually sketch a detailed technical study of our ring. Okay, so that's it. Thanks so much for watching.